center of the first international dark sky community in the world, Flagstaff, Arizona. And the thing you notice about it is they're using amber colored lights on street lights and buildings, and that's because they are driven by the desire to reduce light pollution, in particular for the big astronomical observatory just outside of town, outside of Flagstaff. And this is not only beneficial to the environment because there's very little blue light coming out from the city, but it's also aesthetically pleasing when you're walking around Flagstaff. It's similar to the old-fashioned lights that we always had prior to the LED blue lights, more like the high-pressure sodium lights that we had before. And these are largely LED lights putting out yellow light now. So we're going to talk about 5 different topics here. What is light pollution? What causes it? Safety and good lighting. Impact on people and the wild ecosystem. The fact that we know that dark skies in Oregon are receding. This is one of the darkest sky states in 48 states, and we're losing those dark skies. But it's an economic and environmental opportunity. So light pollution is basically artificial light at night that we use for safety and other reasons, and oftentimes the design of that light at night is poor. So we lose a lot of light that either escapes directly up into the atmosphere or causes light trespass or direct glare into this poor pedestrian over here, instead of just lighting the area that we want to be lit. So light pollution has 4 different aspects. Sky glow, which is the glowing sky at night because of light comes from the ground up to the sky, scatters in the atmosphere, comes down, and we see it as glowing sky glow. Glare, which those of us of a certain age are impacted more by glare than others. Bright lights affecting our older eyes. Light trespass, where, for example, this street light is trespassing into this bedroom. And clutter, which is the presence of many lights that perhaps you experience driving down a highway. You see various lit up signs and other lights, basically, and it's difficult to judge the distance, and you may become confused by these bright, confusing, excessive groupings of light. So all that is part of light pollution. So here's a picture taken of in Central Oregon from Pine Mountain Observatory, looking back toward the city of Bend, Redmond, and Prineville. And each of these cities has a glow about them, which is a negative thing. It's sky glow that's coming back to us at Pine Mountain, 20 miles away. So people in the cities, they look up, they won't be able to see these stars up here because that bright sky glow is hiding the stars. Examples of light trespass. This is a kind of a warehouse facility actually owned by Pacific Power in Bend. They have these floodlights for security, which are not only lighting up their area of security, desired security, but it's coming across the fence into the eyes of drivers across the street. Here's a case of lights on the side of this house, right at the entranceway, and those lights are glaring at you because they're, even though they look yellow in the picture, which is a good thing, they're clear glass fixtures. So you actually see the ball when they're glaring at you. It's not a very welcoming experience. Much better if those lights were shielded and just lighting up the ground, which is the desire. Then, of course, we have string lights, which are okay, and there's some ordinances. For example, the city of Sister has just passed a dark sky ordinance which allows string lights, but they must be turned off after 11 p.m. A lot of people otherwise would leave them on all night. So, public safety and lighting. The video that we just saw with the Sasquatch showed that in this exactly the same scenario here of a bright light. There's a person standing in this gate back here, but when the cameraman blocks out that light, the camera and the person can see who's back there. So the point is that glare is a significant issue of light pollution, and shielded lights are a big improvement over non-shielded. So here's some examples of good lighting. This is a little kind of a business area in Bend, and the lights are behind, underneath an overhang. They're lighting up the sidewalk. They don't light up much beyond the sidewalk, and so it's an example of good lighting. Here's an example of good lighting on a sports field, which has full cutoff lighting. Namely, the lights are designed to sharply cut off over the edge of the playing field. This is an area in southern Arizona, south of Tucson. So these lights we were out there for a demo, and the person running the sports facility had an iPhone, and she was able to control these on and off and change the color. And typically on sports field, you can see this is kind of a bright white color. You want that to mimic daylight. You don't want a yellow light out on a sports field because it makes, catching a football or baseball, whatever, more difficult. So we have, examples of very good lighting. There's no glare. And the best lighting is lighting that you don't notice at night. It's not offensive. It actually lights up in a safe manner places you want to see. More examples of good lighting, which are, in the case of walkways, near the ground and somewhat hidden, actually. So they provide enough light, good ambiance. They're not glaring like spotlights in your face. So we achieve good outdoor lighting by, you start with something that's totally unshielded, put a shield on it, make it more yellow in color, maybe make it not so intense, and put a timer on it or a dimmer switch. So in this example here is a garage area like a fire station, and they shielded the lights, and it's much better. So there are 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. You have to think about every light. Is the light you have useful? Is it, for some other reason that maybe previous owners put it in or whatever? Is the light targeted? Namely, is it lighting up the area that you want and not more? And maybe the light is too bright. It should be at a lower level. And is the light only on when it's needed, controlled? And then ideally the light should be warm colored unless it's a special case like a playing field. So impact on people and the wild ecosystem of outdoor lighting. So it turns out that by evolution, the melatonin molecule has been involved in our systems to help us sleep. And melatonin, it turns out, is key to the presence or absence of visible blue light. It's quite a surprising thing. So the scene is that during evolution, prior to the advent of human-caused artificial light, when the sun is up in the day, it puts out a lot of white light, which includes the blue color. But when the sun sets, most of the light is from the moon or the stars, and that tends to be not blue. It's more yellow in color. And so that signal, the lack of the blue light, instigates the melatonin molecule in our bodies to help us sleep. It's a safety thing. Instead of running around on the plains in Africa, you're up in a tree somewhere or in your cave sleeping. And then when the sun comes up in the morning, blue light comes back, that's a signal our bodies drop that melatonin and we become awake and active, alert. So when we put artificial light in the scene, we introduce blue light at night, unless it's yellow light. We introduce, if we turn on a white light, that introduces the blue component. Even though we see it as white, there's a lot of blue there. And that's why the American Medical Association advises you, if you expect to be sleeping anytime soon, don't be looking at your computer monitor, which has a lot of white light, blue coming at you. So it turns out that many species are nocturnal. 100% of bat species, which is perhaps no surprise, are nocturnal. And something like around 90% of amphibian, 60% of mammal are nocturnal, and even 30% of primates are nocturnal. So that the presence of artificial light adversely affects all of these species. It affects their, some of them use the sky for navigation, they get disoriented, there are attraction, repulsion behaviors with, lights, for example, affecting owls which are hunting or mice which are trying to hide, which is predator-prey relationships. So that, the whole story of light pollution adversely affects the wild ecosystem. Here's an example of, we've all seen this situation of moths being circling a light, a white light. Far fewer insects are attracted attracted is a good word, to a old-fashioned high-pressure sodium light, which is yellow. And that's because the moths pick up the blue light. Your insects their vision is shifted to shorter wavelengths than ours. They see in the ultraviolet, which we don't see, ultraviolet, violet, blue, and a little bit into the green spectrum. So when they see a white light out there, which is putting out a lot of blue, they think it's a navigation device, and they basically fly around it. So yellow lights at night, which if you look online, you find bug lights for sale. Bug lights meaning that bugs don't see them. They're not attracted to them. So you can put a bug light on your porch and it won't attract mosquitoes to your porch because it doesn't have any blue. So here's some more pictures from the city of Flagstaff, Arizona, showing the amber lights. And locally, there are very white lights. This is a gas station overhang, but notice that the light is very focused. It's cut off. It doesn't extend into the surrounding area. Okay, a complicated story here. Each one of these rows is a different kind of light, and each light puts out a different color spectrum. The main thing is over here, white lights create a lot of sky glow. So if we take our old-fashioned high-pressure sodium as a standard, call it 1x, if we go down to increasing Kelvin numbers, which amounts to more and more blue in the spectrum, which you can see over there, we get up to 3 times more sky glow generated just because we're using a LED light that's 5100 Kelvin versus the old-fashioned high-pressure sodium. Just because the blue light scatters preferentially in the atmosphere compared to the other wavelengths. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Kind of. Yeah, okay, you get to see some nods. So now we can talk about it some more.
So it's warm. So it's warm wavelengths.
And we ran into an issue here in the Bend, and it's actually problematic across the United States. And I know that there's some of this in Springfield. So the situation is LED street lights that were installed in 2017, many of them were defective, just a manufacturer defect. And over time, in like 5, 6, 7 years, especially lights that are in intersection areas where they had them turned up brighter, they're falling apart and becoming purple in color. So that the spectrum originally looks like this with a little blue peak, but now we've got a huge blue peak, which is what we see. You see the purple. So this is a problem because we're getting more blue light from these purple lights into the atmosphere versus what it was originally. So we're going around Bend, for example, and notifying Pacific Power, who's responsible, which lights need to be changed because they don't typically go out at night. So it's one of our sort of projects to help the community. Okay, dark skies are receding, namely we're seeing fewer and fewer stars. How do we know that? We know that because we take measurements on the ground looking up, and we also use satellite images that are in space in orbit looking down at night. So we're running a project across the state of Oregon using these meters, and we just installed one behind the library in Blue River this afternoon. These meters sit out and stare at the sky, and every 5 minutes take a measurement of how dark the sky is, record it. And we have volunteers who come by every 3 months, download the data from that into a computer, email it to us, put new batteries in and go. We've had some of these running for more than 5 years. We have currently 67 of them in Oregon. Number 67 is in Blue River. So these are very dependable. They, kind of just work. So what does that tell us? It tells us how dark it is in a certain place, and it also, over time, tells us about change. So here are some data from Central Oregon that show a place called the Hopservatory, which is at Worthy Brewing on the east side of Bend. We're getting an increase over time from 2019 to when this plot was made, 2022. 7% a year increase in light pollution. So you think, oh, well, Bend is expanding, it's a lot more people, but it's not increasing at 7% a year. This increase in population, increase in light pollution is more dramatic than that. We think that's because people are putting out more LED lights because they're cheaper to run and they just put out more lights. Part of it is the population as well. So here are 6 places. In this one, Pine Mountain Observatory, University of Oregon's observatory out southeast of Bend, we got very little increase in light pollution that distance away from Bend. So we're able to track change over time, and eventually we hope to see some of these sites decrease in pollution. So the previous examples were we were on the ground looking up at the sky with the meters. Here, this is a model from a satellite in orbit looking down at the Earth. So it's based on a NASA satellite that sees light coming up, and it's been processed through a computer model of the atmosphere to estimate how much light pollution there is. So here's the city of Portland, this is Bend, and we're over here, right around in there somewhere, in the Mackenzie River Valley. So we're in a very dark spot. This is 2014. Now if we jump ahead to 2020, you see this, and we'll go back and forth. You may notice that there was less light pollution in 2014 compared to 6 years later. So that things are getting worse. But it leads to this opportunity here, both economic and environmental. So if we, for example, turn off the lights after 11 o'clock, we can save energy, and we can probably improve safety by minimizing glare of lights. We'd certainly reduce disruption of the circadian rhythm by using no light at night or yellow or amber colored lights. And the economic benefit is the potential for astrotourism or dark sky tourism, people who want to go someplace to see the night sky. And part of that program is this business of international dark sky places. So talk a little bit about that. So the idea of dark sky astronomy-based tourism is that there are the people who want to go to see the stars have to stay overnight. So it's a more expensive proposition than just a day trip. Stay overnight, they buy dinner, breakfast, etc. So the tourist people are excited about this idea, and for rightly so. So it's estimated that 99% of U.S. residents can't even see the Milky Way from where they live. So this is a big draw because they hear about what's this Milky Way thing, it's like, and they come to Oregon. And they come to places that are certified as dark skies. So it's, this organization called Dark Sky International has said, the skies there are dark. Let's go, let's see what it's about. This is a picture of the coast in Bandon, on our Oregon coast. So tourist groups around the world have advertised the dark sky tourism opportunity, including Oregon. Travel Oregon has put together this dark sky tourism toolkit, which is worthwhile having a look at. It's a very detailed explanation of what it means to be dark sky and how you can achieve dark skies. This is from Australia, another one from Oregon, Utah, Colorado, another one from Utah. Utah travel folks are very up on the dark sky tourism angle. They have, and it says, Utah has the most on Earth. They have the most certified places on Earth, but Oregon has the largest dark sky area on Earth, which is the Oregon Outback Dark Sky Sanctuary. But Utah has a good argument there because Utah has a lot of national parks, national monuments, state parks, many of which have become certified because of their dark skies. And that's in part because the National Park Service has been very supportive of the whole dark sky effort. Okay, international dark sky places. So these are part of a program founded in 23 years ago to encourage communities, parks, and protected areas around the world to preserve and protect dark skies through responsible lighting policies and public education. And there are different categories: communities, parks, reserves, sanctuaries, urban night sky places, and approved lodging. So communities, basically it's a effort in the community to change the lighting ordinance that they may have to reduce light pollution, and after certification to participate with education of whoever visits or the local residents about the benefits of reducing light pollution. There's a couple here we might, components of a dark sky, International Dark Sky Park, IDSP, certification. So basically, you monitor the night sky, you adopt some lighting policy, whether it's a city or a park or a larger area. You may have to retrofit some of your lights, and you typically have 5 years to do that. And along the way, you do outreach and education about light pollution and dark skies. So if we focus a little bit on urban night sky places, so this is a category of dark sky place which is typically in a place that's fairly light polluted, but locally the sky is not so bad. And it's like a park near a big city, like a couple examples here. 10 miles from St. Louis or 18 miles from Austin, Texas. For this example, off of Sydney, Australia, which, look at all the lights over there. But this area here is an urban night sky place, so it attracts visitors there. And dark sky approved lodging is a new category developed just last year of hotels, resorts, retreat centers, cabins, and other permanent structures for overnight accommodations which promote astrotourism and are situated in dark sky locations, but also make an emphasis on improving their outdoor lighting. So the key here is that this applies to permanent structures, and not, for example, to RV parks. So there's only 5 of these so far, and they're all run by one company called Under Canvas. And they're all on the Colorado Plateau. And that made some press, and in fact, Hyatt Hotels came up with an exclusive alliance with Under Canvas. So they advertise now for Under Canvas as part of Hyatt Hotels' worldwide operations. So there's potential dark sky approved lodging in Oregon. We don't have any yet, but it's a possibility. Okay, in Oregon, we do have 3 certified dark sky parks: Prineville Reservoir State Park, Oregon Caves National Monument, and Cottonwood Canyon State Park, which was just certified last month. We have the largest area of certification in the world, which is the Oregon Outback, called Phase 1, and if Phase 2 comes along, I'll show you on a map over there, it'll be 4 times larger than currently. There's a fair amount of effort going on at Wallowa Lake State Park to become certified. As far as communities go, we have Sun River and the city of Antelope certified as dark skies. And these, we have active citizen efforts on dark skies in each of these, including Blue River. Sisters is very close to certification. And there are like 15 places around Oregon that we've been working with, had discussions with. Okay, here, map of Oregon. The green places are places that are certified. There's 6 of them. And this Oregon Outback is this area here, the eastern half of Lake County. This part of Oregon in Harney and Malheur counties may also get certified as Phase 2, which would be quite an expansion of that. So the economics of dark skies. There are a couple of studies over the last few years that people pay attention to. Missouri State, a couple of professors put this together in 2019 and published it, looking at the Colorado Plateau, astrotourism, national parks, national monuments in the Colorado Plateau, which is Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, big area, and lots of parks. They estimate it's going to bring in $580 million per year, and many jobs, just the astrotourism, the dark sky tourism part. So initially, I was a little doubtful about these big numbers, but presented it to a group that visited Central Oregon, brought together, and everybody was like, yeah, it looks practical to me. So because it's divided among many different parks and locations in those 4 states. So that's the kind of, big bucks that people are talking about for astrotourism. Second study was in Quebec, where this Mont Megantic National Park Dark Sky Reserve is present. So Mont Megantic is a national observatory in a fairly dark sky place about 100 miles east of Montreal. And it's surrounded by small towns, cumulative population about 250,000. And all of those towns have agreed to implement dark sky ordinances for lighting. And therefore this reserve was actually, it's been in existence, I think, for 15 years. So the economic benefit of that has been estimated at $10 million a year increase just because of the dark sky attraction, mostly people from Montreal coming over, spread out among those 250,000 people in those about 30 communities, 34. 200, I'm wrong, 225,000. So that, all right, so we'll jump ahead now to a regional sky glow map. So this is based on satellite images looking down seeing light coming up, process that through an atmospheric model, and we get this colored map, where the red colors represent at Springfield. This is Bend over here, and progressively less light pollution here, and here's Blue River in a very dark area, along with the rest of the Mackenzie. We're down Vida. Here we are in Leaburg, so we're getting a little bit more light pollution coming from Springfield and Eugene. This dark area here, it gets down to Crater Lake, and that connects down to the Oregon outback. So before this talk, before coming, I looked up nighttime satellite images of the Mackenzie River cities. So we have a picture of Blue River. This is a map. So this is the Lane County zone identifying Blue River. And then the next picture is a black and white of the nighttime satellite image. So these are places that the satellite is in orbit picked up light coming from the ground. So this turns out to be the school complex, and this is over by the fire station on the other side of town. So if we go back and forth here, you get the idea that there's a lot of light coming up from that part, and you can see other, often in the background area, a few probably residences out in different places, but most of the light is coming from in the city itself. And I have a similar pair of pictures for Leaburg. So here we are somewhere in Leaburg. This is, and then the nighttime picture shows this. So there's some spots, and none of which are cumulative as high as the light coming up from the school district area in Blue River. All right, so that is leads to what can you do, and the main thing is use responsible outdoor lighting at your house and business. You could join Dark Sky International at this website. Collaborate with us. We have a sign-up sheet over here. And you can become a dark sky advocate, which is kind of the next step. Somebody who's, like to think of, very active in their communities, working for dark sky efforts. So there you go. Thanks very much.